something that has been really helpful for me as a leader, as continuing to develop and step into trusting myself and trusting that I'm in the place that I'm supposed to be, is that what Crucible has taught me is that every person is a leader in their own world.
Welcome to the Crucible Project podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are igniting Christ-like change in men and women through experiences of radical honesty and grace.
Welcome to the Crucible Project podcast. My name is Tim Rush, and we are talking about leadership. And we're joined today by Lisa Modrzejewski, who is a retreat leader and the leader of the women's portion of the Crucible Project. Lisa, thank you so much for agreeing to talk with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Tim.
So what all do our listeners need to know about Lisa Modrzejewski?
Well, I've been involved with the Crucible Project since the beginning of working with women, which was in 2019. I have been involved in soul work since 2015, and I'm married to my wonderful husband, Chris. We've been married since 2005. He is also a active member of the men's community and is pursuing becoming a retreat leader and a leader in other aspects at Crucible also. And we have 4 children together. Our oldest is 15 and our youngest is 6. So we've got a very busy home life parenting them.
Man, as a father of 3, I can't imagine throwing one more into the mix. And with that age range,
Yeah.
your life is full.
Yes, our youngest was our pleasant surprise, like the cherry on top of a already full home that we but now we look back and can't imagine life without him.
Wow.
So it's very fun, and it's really a blessing. I think that Chris and I have both been involved in this work and able to bring it to our children, like bring this awareness of ourselves and then bring it into our home as well. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced Lisa as a teacher and a trainer, which means she has to be very, very patient. So I can attest she's very patient, a very good communicator, and a wise teacher. So I really appreciate that. So again, thank you for agreeing to sit with us this morning. I want to talk to you about leadership. So let's start with when was it that you turned around and realized that people were following you?
When I think about this question, it takes me back to high school. Honestly, I was a part of the youth group at my church, and had for most of the time I was in high school, I was the youngest of the group of kids, and then I was on my own for a couple of years. And then as I got into be like a junior, senior, there were some kids in middle school that were coming up behind, like a group of kids that were coming up behind me, and I noticed that like they would often look to me to say like, what should we do? Or what are you going to do, Lisa? And then they'd want to do whatever I did, or like, it'd be hard for them to make decisions without my input. And it was a very new experience, but and I think one that I kind of shied away from, especially back then. It was like, well, I didn't really want anyone to follow me. I wanted to be doing my own thing. But as I then got into college, I went to a Christian college, and I actually felt like it was something that I wanted to lean into more when I noticed people asking for my opinion or asking me, what I thought about a certain topic, or it's noticed people like sitting and listening to me. It was something I thought, well, maybe this is something that I should lean into more. And I got more involved in being a spiritual leader in women's, young women's work at my college. And so I think, yeah, upper high school and into college is when I first noticed that people seemed to want to know what I had to say.
So when you look back on young Lisa, what do you notice that she did well from the beginning?
I think I was always a patient listener. I wanted to hear why people were asking the questions they were asking. I wanted to understand the reasoning behind it, so that I could measure my words and make sure that I was not just making stuff up. I think I definitely had a fear of not being honest or truthful or helpful in what I was offering to the world, what I was
Mhm.
putting out to the world. So I think that made me a good listener. It made me really take seriously the things that I put out there to others. I didn't want to give advice, right? So it meant that I then just was more cautious in the way that I approached using my voice.
Yeah. And so when you look back on that version of yourself, what was it about her that needed growth?
So it's almost like the a push and pull, right? Like it was a good thing that I cared about what other people thought and what was motivating other people, but it also meant that I could become small really easily, or give up, like kind of like hand back hand back my voice to others. I could let go of the reins really easily. I lacked confidence. And so I was a more of a reluctant leader at times, or probably was easily gave it up, right, too quickly.
Yeah, so this for me is the hard part. How did you know that's what you needed to grow in? And how did you do it? Like what was your journey of recognizing, man, this is something that I need? Because I'm and the story I tell myself, it's the growing steps are hard and painful,
Hmm.
and we often want to hide those from ourselves,
Yeah.
like purposeful blind spots.
Yeah, I think what really helped me was having strong mentors in my life, other people that I was following that I could look up to, who saw something in me and invested in me. And I can hear like those individual voices from different teachers, or a pastor, or other friends who were older and wiser, who would say, would encourage me, like, no, try again, get back in there. Why don't you try it this way? Um, Very encouraging. And I don't think there was a time where I was completely isolated from those mentors at those pivotal moments, right?
Yeah. So can you mark out a path that led you into to growing in that sense?
Okay, so I think a big part of what was going on back then was that I first was getting used to being an upfront speaker, and getting more used to sharing from on stage or in larger groups. And so when I think of the getting feedback from others about that, it was usually the people who were encouraging me to get up there and tell my story, or talk about myself, and encourage others. We would meet afterwards, right, and talk about what I could have done different. And I think why I trusted them was because of the time that they put into listening to me and being with me. So in Bible studies, or in one-to-one conversations, right? Like it was usually like a slow development of trust over time, through seeing that what the way that they were choosing to live their lives matched up with the things that they were telling me. So it was like seeing people who were putting all the same stuff into practice in their own lives. And so I guess I trusted that like the fruit, they were bearing fruit, right? And I was feeling the effects of it. And so not saying it was easy, because I can even remember certain points where it was like, this feels so hard and I don't want to do it anymore. And I'm going to choose to do it anyway, because I've caught the vision, right? I've caught the idea, and I'm going to endure a bit of discomfort, or anxiety, right? Or social anxiety, or performance anxiety, for the greater good.
Can you step back into those shoes and look at the advice they're giving you, that you're seeing it bear fruit in their lives, and so you're trusting them, but you said you didn't use these words, but what I hear is there's something risky. There's something risky about
Yes.
stepping into this. So what
Yeah.
was at risk?
What was at risk was thinking that I had poorly communicated something, that I might look stupid. I mean, just the very simple effect of like, what if I get up there and bumble it all, and just sound like an idiot? Like I was very afraid of my own contempt, right? Self-contempt and potentially the contempt of others. Not so much of those leaders themselves. Like there's somehow like I'm thinking of a very specific like person that led me during like my 18 to 23-year-old years. She wouldn't have ever said anything, but it was something about that audience, like or the people that I was trying to lead, right? That they may turn on me. I just had, yeah, risks, all these fears, risks, which I will say they hardly ever came true. And I used that too to be like, okay, just because you're afraid this is going to happen, it doesn't mean it's actually happened or going to happen, and it hasn't happened, right? And when it has happened, it's been okay, like it's resolved. You've survived. That had that internal dialogue for sure.
So I heard a couple of things there. One is the fear of the judgment of the audience, but it sounded like
Hmm.
there was a root in the judgment that you were already bringing about yourself.
Hmm.
So is there the sense of projecting onto them that they are seeing what how you are already judging yourself? How did that play out?
For sure. I think through my 20s is when I started to realize that I was my biggest critic. I was looking for my fears in other people, right? Like that other people would confirm what I was afraid was true. That was a big aha moment for me, I think, was as I got through my, into my late 20s, into my early 30s, and I realized, oh, I'm going to find people who agree with me about myself, right? Like I'm going to find people that have I'll latch on to those negative messages where I can find them because that's what I'm afraid is true about me already, whether it's that I'm not good enough or that I'm don't care enough, I'm not polished enough, I don't matter, that type of stuff. I would try to find the facial expression in the audience even that told me that that is the truth, right? That person must be thinking what I'm thinking because their face is telling me that, right? Like, so it took me a long time to separate out that that is the absolute reality from like, oh no, that's just a fear, right? That's just, that may not be going on. And I needed to heal that part of me that I was so convinced that I am not enough.
Yeah. Okay, this is a choose your own adventure here because I want to know two things. I want to know about so how did you bring healing to yourself? How did you find healing of that I am not enough? And the other line of thinking here is what I think is true about you is that you are very perceptive. When you sit with people, it's like you read the room, you know the temperature, and that's what makes you a really good teacher. Is you know are the students listening or not listening? Are they catching it? Do I need to say it a different way? And so I have all sorts of stories in my head about somebody who walks in and I think immediately knows the room. So I'm curious about where did that come from?
Hmm.
So my story is also that comes from endurance.
Hmm.
There's a lot of pain and hurt that sort of gift comes out of. So how did you become a good
Yeah.
listener, a perceptive person, or
Yeah.
tell us about the journey of healing, or both?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll start with the like, where does it come from? Because you're right. You're absolutely right that it comes out of a painful story, right? And I think it's true for a lot of people who are people who read the room, right? Who are looking at facial expressions and body language and all that. Yeah. I was definitely raised in a home where I needed to be on guard for my own safety. It was a chaotic home. There were a lot of good things that my mom brought to our family, and I love her dearly. And my dad was an alcoholic, was unpredictable, and someone who was prone to rage. So I learned to read, how is he going to react? So that comes out of trauma, right? That hypervigilance.
Mhm.
Some people call it, being an empath, but it comes from thinking I need to be able to anticipate what's coming, so that I can keep myself safe and adapt to the situation quickly. So it's comes from trauma. It comes from a woundedness in me, and it also is something that I think God has been able to use and transform to be a gift, and also one that I have to watch carefully because I don't always know what everyone's thinking. I have to learn how to let go of that. That like this is maybe what's going on, but I don't actually know, and I need to hold space for the fact that I'm just a broken person. Also, you know.
Yeah. So, how were you able to find healing along this journey?
Yeah, it started with, being in counseling, talking authentically with other people about my experience, getting some time and distance from it. And then ultimately, I do credit a huge a part of my healing journey to going on a soul work weekend. In 2015, I went to an initiatory weekend where I was able to really be brutally honest about the pain that I lived with day in and day out, and receive grace and love and empathy back, in a place where I was afraid of receiving contempt and rejection.
So it's fascinating to me. You are a strong leader working in an organization surrounded by strong leaders, uh,
Hmm.
which could be horrible because there are a lot of personalities and there are a lot of opinions. But the story I tell myself is because of the work that we do, it also leads to vulnerability and honesty. And that has to affect not only how you lead people, but how you interact with other leaders.
Something that has been really helpful for me as a leader, as continuing to develop and step into trusting myself and trusting that I'm in the place that I'm supposed to be, is that what Crucible has taught me is that every person is a leader in their own world, right? In their own right. So it's not like some people are leaders and some people aren't. Everyone is. And then it's just, what do you want to do with that? What direction do you want to go with that? Another thing that I've learned through my journey of leading is that every person's strength also has potential for weaknesses, right? Every strength has blind spots. Every every character quality could be a huge blessing, or it could, and with it comes an area where it trips them up. And so when I'm in a room full of other strong leaders, it helps me to look at what do they have that I can
Mm.
lean on or that I can grow from, right? Where I need to bring that up in myself. What is the positive of what I'm judging to be a deficit in myself? Maybe there's something that I'm bringing that this other person will learn from also. Or actually, I just believe that, right? That there is something that everyone could learn from me as well. And it's just a matter of having the ears to hear and the eyes to look for it. Look for that. We call it gold,
Yeah.
right? Look for the gold. And that helps me to give everyone a seat at my table and to trust that I have a place at theirs.
Yeah. So there are a lot of instances where you walk into a room or maybe even a Zoom room where you're the leader and you may know 75% of the people, and they're new faces. So how do you draw from your past to know I'm okay here? I'm the leader and it's going to be okay.
Well, having clear expectations walking into that room is helpful for me of knowing ahead of time what is expected of me here, if possible. What am I running this program? Am I responsible for this program, or am I here in a different capacity? Right? Will I be called on? So that some of it is just the preparation ahead of time, and knowing that like if I'm not the one with the responsibility for the event itself, then I can more easily sit back and take on a they'll call me if they need me role. But then in the opposite, like if it's a space where I have taken on the hat, right, that says that I'm the one that's responsible for the order and the schedule and all that, then that comes with it. Like I carry myself differently, I think. I watch for different things. I don't know if that answers your question very well,
Yeah.
but it's more the setup that helps, that gives me comfort.
Yeah. So I think a piece of your leadership is you're developing other leaders. And so, and this to
Hmm.
me is one of the harder things is passing off
Hmm.
responsibility and not rescuing. So how do you do that? How do you discern okay, I need to step in, and no, this isn't my time to lead. I need to be comfortable with what's going on here and let it take the course that this other leader is moving down.
Yeah, through a lot of mistakes, through a lot of doing it wrong, of jumping in at the wrong time, or at a time that was not helpful, and then the painful process of like apologizing and sorting through that later, or on the other side of like of sitting for too long at certain times and watching a program go in a direction that was less than helpful, and having to figure out, okay, what do we do now? So through a lot of trial and error, but ultimately through I think the setup again, like the setting things up ahead of time with what is the goal of this meeting, this whatever it is we're doing here, and discernment of, I guess it's just discernment, right? Like of, is letting this person continue in the way that they are, is the program still going to achieve its purpose even if it's not perfect, right? Can it still be useful? And then also, how disruptive would it be? I think that's another thing I'm often looking at, is like, I don't want to create unnecessary shame for the person that is leading by the interrupting in a way that is calling attention to them. But I also know that there's some necessary what shame resilience that is built from that being interrupted, being the one that is seen in the mistake, or in the things being taken off of their plate. So then the repair then I think becomes really important. Like how do I continue to show that I'm for them, for that person, and for the
Yeah.
group, even if I determine that I'm going to step in and take the mantle back for a time. Um, that it's really, I wouldn't say it's easy at all. It's definitely a nuanced muscle.
Yeah, and the story I tell myself is, especially for somebody who reads the room, and um, maybe accurate, maybe not, but you're recognizing, oh, this is what these people, what everybody else in the room is thinking right now, and that awareness for me makes it even more difficult sometimes. That people pleaser in me, I guess.
Yeah, well, and the other thing that is so helpful is knowing that every opportunity is an opportunity for growth, right? Like one meeting going awry, or one program maybe falling flat, or having someone say at the end of it, like, I just didn't get it. Like, it has been such good work for me to realize, like, okay, that does not mean that I don't have to take my toys and go home. I don't have to quit. I can learn from it, right? I can use it as a growing experience, and a chance to even in model to other leaders that, like, okay, we learn, we stay open, we stay curious, and if I get triggered and insecure, that there's a way to come back from that too. Because I think a lot of, I mean, at least me, and I've heard from a lot of other people, that they think if they get stirred up, get upset, do something that might, maybe are rude or snappy, or that's the end, right? Like, I've disqualified myself from leadership, or I've disqualified myself from this position, and I've done the same. It's really like, no, there's repair, there's restoration. That's the beauty of it, is like there's always room to apologize, look at what was going on there, and then
Yeah,
try
yeah,
again.
and especially in this culture that you work in, where that's expected, vulnerability, honesty,
Hmm.
truth, that makes so
Hmm.
much sense. So imagine, and I think you said junior high was about that time where you started noticing people wanted your opinion, they were following your lead, and at that time your reaction was, no, don't follow me. Why would you be seeking out me as your leader? So if you could go back and sit in the place of junior high Lisa and look forward to the mom today that has four kids and is married and has a rich, we didn't get into this, but a rich work history of different spaces of service, pastoring, caregiving, and leading. What would junior high Lisa say about adult mom leader Lisa? Would she be shocked? Would she be amazed? Or would she go, yep?
I think she would be pleasantly surprised. Like, I think that's what I hoped for, but I didn't let myself hope so much that I could be disappointed if it didn't happen, if that makes sense. Like, it was, I definitely wanted to be a mom, definitely wanted to be married, wanted to be doing something in the world that mattered. I was a strong Christian as a teen, and so I definitely knew I wanted to be doing something for the kingdom, right? Something for God's kingdom, for helping people know His love for them and His care for them. But the how, I had no idea how I wanted to be doing that. I think I would have been proud of myself and pleasantly surprised at the audience now.
So if she could put that into a phrase, a word, or a blessing, what would she say if she could shout it across? I don't want to. I don't want to guess at your age, so I won't say how many years across that bridge. But what would she say is true about Lisa?
Oh, she probably would have just said, "You're doing it. You're amazing. Keep on going." Something. I think it would be more facial expression. Like as I'm thinking like probably not words so much as like the smile, the eye contact, and the like. I can just see like a glow and like probably a big hug. I feel like I'd give myself a big hug.
That's really cool. And it's cool because that's how you read communication, is you
Yeah,
read faces.
it's that's right. I do put a lot of value in body language and physical touch and eye contact and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much. I don't know if listeners get anything out of these, but man, I do. This helps me examine what am I doing and how do I want to do it. Yeah. So in fact, I want to go back and re-listen to this because there are growth edges in this for me. Anything else you would like to say before we close out?
I think just I would want to impress upon listeners that you are a leader, that you have your own kingdom, right? And you have agency to, even though you may not have control over what happens in life, you have choices about how you want to be, what you want to do with it. And people are watching, whether or not you know it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, listener, if something in this strikes you, we encourage you share this with friends. Just like Lisa said, you are a leader in your realm. There are people watching you and paying attention. And that's true of the people around you. So thank you, Lisa. God bless you. And we hope each of you have a great day.
Thanks, Tim. Take care.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. Or if you're ready to get started on your transformational journey right now, you can connect with one of our Crucible certified coaches for a free 30-minute session at thecrucibleproject.org/coaching. That's thecrucibleproject.org/coaching. If you like what you heard, connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening. And don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Thank you for listening.